Um, I want to talk about the war with Russia and Ukraine. You coming in? No? Okay. Had electrolysis done again, hence why I'm wearing the mask. So my issue with the war on Russia is why didn't we do sanctions earlier? That's the thing I don't understand. Like, why do we do business with countries whom we know is who we know are like dictatorships, are like communist dictatorships that we know, pay no attention to human rights. I think the idea to do economic warfare, to do like to come after the money that this government makes funding with, makes sense. But I don't understand why, because we knew how crazy this Russian government and how crazy Putin was ages ago, right? So why didn't we put sanctions on them ages ago? Then we wouldn't be in this situation. They wouldn't have the same level of economic power. I think, right? I don't know. I'm not an expert. I don't know things about like geopolitical issues in relation to war and stuff like that. But that has always been in the back of my mind. It's like, why do we do business with China when we know China is flagrantly, ignores human rights or ignores anything that anybody else says about their issues about human rights around the world. It's like, if we do business with somebody, right, and we're like, well, we want to know that the product we're getting is we're getting it, fairly in some fashion. Like you literally don't have like serfs, toiling for nothing, to send us this grain or something, right? That's my issue with it. Because if we do business with these different countries that have huge human rights violations and who are warfaring and are attempting to simulate other countries and stuff like that, right? And ignore human rights, who want nothing to do with NATO and stuff, right? We just fund them basically through economy. Why do we, so why is it we pull out economy now? Is it because it's in our interest to do it now as opposed to before? Or is it something along the line like, I remember watching an Obama talk once when Obama was in power, and Obama was saying about the debt to China. He was saying that like, he was kind of doing this posturing kind of thing, like just drinking this like glass of water and saying like, yeah, I don't know if we can pay it back, right? So America was wealthier than China, right? And America said like borrowed money, put it in their pocket, right? Which was a huge chunk of money, and if you want that money back, right, you are going to do things fairly, right? Because China pays no attention to human rights. Right? Or is the issue that if we're not doing business with Russia in terms of like gas or something, then Russia will do business with China and they will develop a different economic system and somehow gain more money? I don't know. I don't really understand these things. I don't profess to understand these things. Some of the things I can talk about are in relation to Buddhism. So in relation to Buddhism, one of the main precepts of Buddhism is to not kill. And so you hear stories of Buddha in like a couple of Vastu. There's a story about the fish gong, and the fish gong is the wood gong that the Buddhists clack when they chant. The story behind that is that like all the people of Kapilavastu, which was the city that the Buddha lived in, ate the fish, and then they suffered bad karma because of it. And hence why they utilized the fish gong as a reminder of not overfishing. But that doesn't mean that they didn't fish. But then in Buddhist precepts too, the idea is that it's wrong to kill in relation to eating, wrong to kill meat for personal consumption. So like with Theravada Buddhism, a layperson may give pork or something, to a bhikkhu, as a meal, but it wasn't killed specifically, as long as it was not killed specifically for that bhikkhu, is the idea. And I think ultimately the idea is that, like, if somebody is giving you food, you're returning that food in terms of dharma, or dhamma in the Theravada sense. So it's like this exchange. I do this practice, I gain this wisdom, this knowledge, in exchange for food, I return it back to you, is the concept. And so if you start refuting or refusing certain types of food, I don't want mayonnaise, I don't want egg, I don't want fish or something, then the people might just say, well, I don't want your wisdom, because it gets in the way of my life or something. So the general idea, which isn't a workaround, the general idea is that, like, you don't eat food that's specifically killed for you because it's wrong to kill. And so one of the major precepts in Buddhism is that it's wrong to kill. Another example of war or killing in war in Buddhism is there was an attacking force on Kapilavastu. I think it was Kapilavastu, city that the Buddha was in, and set up a monastery, the OG Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, and there was an invading force, and so the people of that city ran. They didn't have a choice, right? They didn't have a choice. And so I think running, when you're faced with conflict and you're caught between running or standing and fighting, those are two different. I don't know how different those options are. This idea of not killing also applies to, like, myself. So, for example, it would be wrong to allow somebody else to stupidly kill me. Right? If somebody wanted to kill me, and I just, like, offered myself up for some stupid reason, that would be wrong. If I let somebody else kill me for their stupidity, that would be wrong. Right? So it would be wrong, like, so if the Russians were invading Canada and some soldier was coming after me and I had some opportunity to defend myself, I think it would be wrong for me to not allow the other person to kill myself because I take this pacifist stance. Because ultimately killing is wrong, whether it's you or the other person. However, running is an option, right? Running is an option. And so it gets really hard. It gets really hard to discern what the right thing to do in relation to war is. I certainly am not about to, like, stand up and say, that to fight back, war is, even if it's a matter of taking up arms, is wrong. I'm not going to do that. I think it's wrong in terms of, like, invading another country or something. Like, if Canada decide to invade, I don't know, Russia and take Russia over, I don't know that I would join in on that. Right? I don't know that I would join in on that. Or if I was drafted into a war like Vietnam, I don't know that I would join in on that. So I think the idea of putting sanctions on another country is a good idea. that is a good idea. That is one way. That is an economic form of warfare or stifling war, right? And to be realistic about it, right? With Putin, this guy is just, he is the oligarch of oligarchies, right? This guy just accumulated this massive amount of money, and makes massive amounts of money around the world, stuff like that, which is probably the reason why they're invested in conquering the Ukraine, right? Which is a European country, by the way. Why they're interested in doing that is because it's probably an economic advantage. Right? I can't see how it would be anything else. Why else would you do it? Because it would cost you money to do it. So it's probably an economic advantage to invade the Ukraine. You take away that economic advantage, right? And in a civilized world, it makes sense that economic warfare is plausible. So I don't understand, but the thing I don't understand is why we haven't been doing these sanctions like ages ago. So I think it's a good learning lesson, right? In terms of war, in terms of stifling war. One of the ways of stifling war is economic sanctions. Again, I don't know a lot about this stuff. I've never been in a war. I'm not a geopolitical, economic scientist or specialist or anything. I just felt like I needed to say something of value. Like, I definitely think it's wrong to kill. In Mahayana Buddhism, there's the concept of the bodhisattva. And there's often these concepts of bodhisattvas giving up their lives for different things. I don't know that that's wrong either, as long as it's not done stupidly. Right? I don't know that like joining a war and fighting back is wrong if it's not something that's not done stupidly. Right? And I don't know ultimately that killing is the ultimate solution. I don't know that killing is really the ultimate solution to war. There's so many more factors involved in war, like economics, that the idea of picking up a gun and going to war is not necessarily the be-all of the end-all of the solution type of thing. And I think the idea of like trying to avoiding killing as much as possible is the best option. It is always the best option, right? But economic sanctions, why we don't do this earlier, that is the thing that I don't understand. Why wait until now? The only other thing I would add into, like if you look back through history, and you look at the different empires that were spreading out and conquering and were vicious and ruthless about it, like the Romans, for example. Although the Roman Empire lasted a long, long time, when you're just talking about countries and whatnot, it is hard to maintain that. Even on an interpersonal level with another person, it is really hard to work up the anger and the hate to maintain that for a long, long period of time. So usually these things that we classify as being evil, like war, hateful, discriminatory, human rights issues, it is really hard. It is really hard to create those things, generate them, and maintain them for a long, long period of time. And the bigger an empire grows, the faster it starts to decay and crumble in certain ways. A prime example would be Hitler. Hitler grew a bit past Germany. Hitler was able to destroy his enemies somewhat, but he was not capable of sustaining that for a long period of time. I think going with sanctions is the best plan at the moment, and providing munitions to people who need to fight is the best plan at the moment. You know, I think the entire world, aside from a few other countries, are basically not on board, you know, with Putin's war. But I also think it's incredibly important to learn from this and apply the idea of sanctions to these different countries. You know, we need to make like good allies with different countries, good trade allies, you know, with different countries, good investments with different countries. You know, for example, like Taiwan, China wants to take over, right? And be there for that country in terms of an economic pushback, you know, in relation to the country that is attempting to